Hi guys, yeah, welcome here to another session of the Build on Starknet Bootcamp. So this is part two of the session, and yeah, we are really moving on, and I believe we are learning. At least I usually get some feedback from some people, and they are really appreciative of the bootcamp. So today we are going to as well have another practical session, yeah, which is like the part two, yeah, of session three. So still we are tinkering the Cairo programming language, yeah. So the Cairo programming language is really like the basis of Starknet, yeah. Everything in Starknet is built, the logic and then everything it's built on the Cairo programming language. So it's really fundamental for us to understand how it works and to really grasp it. Yeah. So that's why we have to put in a lot of emphasis on understanding the various logics that we need to know. So just to go to slide two, of course, this is still the central code. Yeah, the central code. And so the bootcamp is brought to you by the central code and the Starknet Foundation. And the whole essence of the bootcamp is to onboard as many devs to Starknet as possible. So yeah, it's a 4 week course and it's taught live. And then every week we have two engagements every Friday. And then Tuesday and Fridays, 8 p.m. EAT. It's only that the week of Christmas, which is next week, we shall only have a session on Friday. So we shall not have a session on Tuesday. Yeah, and for those who haven't yet joined our Telegram, you can join it, and then as well you can check out our YouTube channel. And in case you kind of maybe lag behind and you want to revamp your memory, you can check it out. Yeah. So can someone help me share? Maybe can Emma help me share the link to our Telegram group? I would really appreciate. Yeah. So yeah, we are covering 6 sessions, and we have done session one, session two. Now we're on session three. Yeah, session three. We are handling the second bit of it, and yeah. So we have the other sessions. We shall the first session will be advanced Starknet contract development. Then fifth session will be testing smart contracts in Starknet. Then the last session will be on how to integrate front end with Starknet. So and to be thank you so much for sharing that link. Yeah, so the trainers, the tutors, it's me and Vian. Vian taught the first session, awesome session, and these other sessions are going to be taught by me. And maybe in our last session, actually, we shall have someone from Kenya to it will be the one to take us through the last session. So I just want us to tighten our seatbelts. Just expect a lot of stuff happening. So of course we have a scoring system. And there are points which are awarded for us to graduate, because at the end of this boot camp there is an SPOK which has to be claimed. Yes, so we have 3 quizzes in total, 5 questions each, and yeah, we have been giving out some questions, and then there are some tests, 2 points per question. So bonus activities. So in case you want to get yourself some bonus points, you can go to Note Guardians, and just guys, this is a reminder that immediately after the session, I've always been doing this, sharing the slides in the group, and even for the slides for this session, I'll share them definitely in the group. So when you attempt some questions from Note Guardians, you are awarded some bonus points, And then I want to implore us to use GitHub a lot. That after attempting, I want us to have a culture of contributing. Yeah, I want us to have a culture of contributing to GitHub. Yeah, thank you so much, Ellison, for joining. I welcome you, Silas Mwanguzi. Yeah, so we are handling the part two, and you guys, you've just joined us in time. We are happy to have you. This is still a build on Starknet, and this is the session three, and we're handling the second bit of the second part of session three. And this session, of course, is still a practical session. And this session is going to entail a lot of programming concepts and then data types and then ownership. Yeah. We want to Cairo's ownership system is very much different from Rusty's ownership system. So we are going to dive deep into the ownership system of Cairo, and yeah, it's that's one of the things actually you really need to be well versed with, yeah. So it's really good for us to grasp the fundamentals. It's usually good to understand how does the language operate, yeah. Yeah, so this boot camp, I think I mentioned about this. It's proudly brought to you by the Starknet Foundation, Starknet, and in partnership with the Central Code. So let's jump into the Cairo programming language part two. So then, in case you need more resources, maybe if you feel you're not comfortable, I remember I shared the Cairo book in the group, and then those are the other links to Starklings and then Node Guardians. Starklings and Node Guardians, all these are tools to help us get well versed with the Cairo programming language. So maybe in your free time and need to practice, definitely please check out the Starklings and Node Guardians. Yeah, so feel free to follow the book. Feel free to follow the book because I'm going to be definitely using the book a lot in this practical session. And then you're expected that at the end of every session, please raise those questions. In case you have questions, please endeavor to raise them. Endeavor to raise the questions because we have to move this journey together. So now let's start on the Cairo programming language, part two. So let me present my screen. I'm trying to look for, yeah, so my documentation is right there. So the other time we ended at shadowing. So the other time we did variables and mutability, we did constants, and then we ended with shadowing. Yeah. So there is always a quiz at the end of every session, or in the Cairo programming language book. There is always a trial out quiz. So guys, I urge you to always take in interest and just test your understanding of the Cairo programming language. Yeah. So endeavor to, it's just for your own benefit. So to kindly try it out always. So I want to presume that you guys have, maybe if at all you've done the quiz, and maybe even after this session, you can just revisit the book and try out the quiz. Maybe do we have at this point do we have any questions maybe from the previous session? Could we be having any questions maybe from the previous session? Maybe there's some bits you didn't understand and you would definitely want me to throw more light onto it. Just readily available to attend to any person. So any questions, any bit you didn't understand and maybe it needs a lot some bit of tinkering on it again. So you can just write it in the chat, or you can just unmute and raise it. In case you have any questions, you can as well just raise the question. Feel free. So meanwhile, let's go to what are called data types. So I want us to understand data types. So every programming language, just like English and maybe your native language, yeah, there you realize that there is a certain way how we construct sentences. Programming languages as well like that. Yeah. So there is a certain way you are supposed to, if you are told you are to construct meaning out of data which is maybe being shared, you need to know how to handle this data. And that's how data types come in. Yeah. So we have various data types. We have integers. So just to follow some, to read out something from the programming language. Yes, James, you want to raise a question? I saw you unmuted. Please switch off the video and maybe just raise the question in case you have a quick question, or you can just type it in the chat. Well, so I was still explaining something about data types. So in Cairo we have two data types. We have scalars and we have compounds. So I want us to bear in mind that Cairo is a statically typed language, which means that it must know the types of all variables at compile time. Yeah. And I remember the first session I was explaining a bit of this, that there's some language which are dynamically typed, that at compile time you don't need to know what data what's the type of the data that is being handled. But Cairo is a language which the data has to be compiled. For it to be compiled, we need to know its type. Yeah. So a scalar type represents a single value. So Cairo has three primary scalar types. We have fields. Yeah. You can basic understand the field as the default data type. Yeah. So in case maybe I've written a variable and haven't assigned any data to any data type to it, it's given a failed data type by default automatically. That's the default data type in Cairo. And then we have booleans. Yeah. So these are very similar to some data types from other programming languages. Here they talk about the failed data type. So I just want us to know that a failed data type is a data type, yeah, which in case I haven't assigned a data type to maybe a variable, that variable will be given the failed data type as the default data type. I want to speak something about integers. Now we have what is called signed integer and we have what is called unsigned integers. So there is something about integers, that we have the negative bit of the integer and then we have the positive bit of the integer. Yeah. So the negative starts from -127 and then to +128. Yeah. So there is the negative bit of it and then there is a positive bit of it. So every time I declare a variable as an unsigned integer, it means that I'm neglecting the negative bit of it. How does that come in handy? For example, if at all I'm recording the ages of students in a class, age can never be negative. So I need to declare the age as an unsigned integer. Yeah. And then the bit of 8 bits, 16 bits, 32 bits, that one depends on how you intend, how big is what you're storing. For example, if at all I'm storing a number and maybe it's just one number, I can maybe declare it as an 8-bit number. Yeah. But if at all I'm storing a very large number, maybe a number with about 10 position arguments, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's one number. I don't need to store. I need to attach to declare it with some big bits, maybe a 32-bit, maybe a 64-bit. Yeah. So we are going to see this in practice, and let me just maybe from here open my Visual Studio Code. I'm using Windows as of today, so you can just go to your PowerShell, and I want to open where I had stored my work the other time. So you can just head to your PowerShell and change to, I think I named it Starknet. Wow. Okay, you can create another directory. So to create a directory, hope my screen is very visible. Hope my screen is very visible. So you can just create a new directory where you intend to store your work. So we create a new directory by saying make directory, and then we say Starknet Basecamp. Yeah. Then change to that directory to store all my work for today. So now right here, yeah, so we are going to create a new Cairo project. So to do that, you say scab new and then the name of the project. Maybe I can call it session 3. Yeah, so that's how you initiate, and then you can select the Cairo test by default. So then it's created. Then you change directory, you head to session 3, and then after you're welcome, Simon. So after then doing that, you open your Visual Studio Code by saying code dot. So it's opening my Visual Studio Code. Guys, in case you have any questions, you can just raise them up either by typing it in the chat, or you can unmute and then raise the question. So let me my work may not be so visible. So let me increase on the font size. Is it better? Guys, in case you need me to adjust, okay. Let me leave it at that. So is my can my terminal be seen clearly? Give me a thumbs up, guys. Okay, thank you so much. So now let me open my Visual Studio Code, VS Code. The other time we saw how you can install VS Code. So let me open it right here. Yeah, so then when you head to, you can see that when you initiate a project, yeah, there are some default files. There is the lib.cairo file, there is the .gitignore file, then there is the scab file. Now everything we install, it's stored under the scab.toml file, and then where we want to add our logic, it goes under the lib.cairo file. So right now you may not need everything here, so you can just delete everything right here. Yeah. So and then I remember telling us that let me speak something about the extensions. Yeah, someone raised it the other time. Okay, I zoom out. Okay, thank you so much. Better. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so someone raised something about the extensions. Now, in programming, like for example, Visual Studio Code is a code editor. So the tools which have been designed to aid in the effective writing of our code, and these are what are called extensions. Yeah. So I remember instructing us to install extensions the other time, and for your information also, Copilot has been made free. Yeah, so you can now use your AI features in VS Code freely. The other time it was for paying. So what an opportunity for Copilot to be made free. If I told you a developer, I know you are rejoicing right now. Yeah, so I'm trying to. I want to show us the extensions bit. So in my terminal, it's you head here, and then you go to view, and then you look for extensions. Yeah. So in these extensions, we already installed Cairo in our previous session, in the Cairo extension in our previous session. But if at all you didn't install it, it's right here. So you just come here and type Cairo. When you type Cairo, they'll bring you Cairo support syntax. They'll bring you Cairo syntax. Then there's unofficial, but then we have to go with the most recent version in regards to the extensions available, and it's Cairo 1.0. Though Cairo 1.0 is not the recent version, but according to the extensions available, it's the most recent. Since for me I had already installed it, if I told you hadn't yet installed it, it will bring enable. If I told you have it installed, it will bring disable. That which tells you that you already installed. Now let's go back, guys, to our work. So, any questions in regards to the extensions? Any questions? I want us to move at the same pace, guys. Okay, since there are no questions, let's proceed. Okay, so in our file, we have the src, and then the src, so we are going to do everything from the lib.cairo file. So when you head into the lib.cairo file, I said how we comment in the Cairo programming language, we use double forward slashes. Yeah, so that's how we comment in the Cairo programming language. And I remember saying something about commenting, and then I said that imagine you're working on a project, because most big projects you're not the only person who's working on it. Yeah, so you are a team of maybe 100 developers, maybe you are 20 developers, and maybe you've just done, maybe your task maybe of the day, you are required to write just one function. Yeah, so but you need your code needs to communicate properly to other developers that this is what I've been doing, so this is how you can stop, this is where you should stop. That's what your code is supposed to do. So that's why we need comments when writing our code. So maybe you can come here and say data types. So now I'm commenting because that's what we are going to look at. We are looking at data types. And then I want to talk about functions. I'm going to introduce functions briefly here. Guys, we are following the Cairo programming language book. That's what we are using. Yeah, so let me just write something here for our illustration purposes. So in the previous session, I said that how we start a function. So what are functions? You may be asking yourself, what is a function? How important is it to me? So what functions help me is that, guys, just imagine you want to write, you want to do something maybe that adds one every time, maybe after 10 seconds. Yeah, you want to add one to a number. After every 10 seconds, you want to add one to a number. So you need to find ways of categorizing this code into a function. Yeah. So functions help us to avoid repetition of code. That's what functions are for. And how we write functions, we start with the fn keyword. After writing the fn keyword, then you give the function any name you want. Maybe I can give it stack function. Yeah. And then maybe I want my function to take in some arguments. These are positional arguments. Maybe some arguments. Maybe I can say x. Yeah. Or maybe it can be age. And maybe age, I said we cannot have a negative age. So age is an unsigned integer. And then and how we declare only positives, we use u at the front. U meaning it's unsigned. Yeah, age can never be negative. So in case you want to store some things and you know very well conclusive that this thing can never be a negative, you are free to declare it as a UA. For example, I know age can never be negative. You can never have negative age. Yeah. So then also maybe I want to add there that besides the age, I also want to store a name of this person. Yeah. Or maybe let me say, let me first keep it at age to keep it so simple. Yeah. And then maybe here I just say print ln. So what your extension does, are you seeing it? Every time I try to write something, even before I complete it, my extension helps me to complete it. So then I can just say this is my edge is that right there. Yeah. And then I want to print out the edge. Yeah. So every time I want to print out something, maybe which is a variable, I have to add in the curly brackets. So that's how you write a function. That's a very simple function that prints out the edge. And then, but for the program to run, we have what is called the main function. Now the main function is the one which runs everything. Yeah. So it's the one which runs everything. Yeah. And I call out my function. Yeah. So it's telling me that my function expects an argument. That's the importance of an extension. So then let me say maybe 40. Yeah, Maria is asking if I had two variables, how would I type the print line? The print line doesn't change. Yeah, the print line doesn't change. It's how you express them that changes. Yeah, so I would just go here. If I had two variables, maybe this can be age 1 and this can be age 2. And then let me give age 2 as well a u. This time let me call it a u16. It's an unsigned integer but with 16 bits. So then I come here, because my function is expecting two positional arguments, then I'm going to add here maybe 50. Yeah. So and then here age 1. So to add my age 2, and I can just come here, and age 2 is, yeah, age 1, age 2. Hope that is very, very much clear. Yeah. So my function right now is doing, what it's doing is that it's printing out two edges. So I want to run this and we see our result. So let me open my Windows PowerShell right here. So how we run our code is that you have to first verify that you are in the right directory of your project, and we are in the right directory. So you can first clear your screen in case you want to have few things on your screen by typing clear. And then when you come there, we just say scab Cairo run, and then the name, yeah, scab Cairo run. So by doing that, it's compiling, and then after compiling, it has to give us an output. So let's just wait for an output right there. In a few seconds, we're going to be having an output, and it's supposed to print for us two edges. Yeah, so you can see, guys, that says my age is 40 and then age 2 is 50. So when you do that, I know as programmers we love having results. Yeah, and every time you get a positive answer, you are so much excited. Any question at this juncture? Simon, do you have any question? What's the difference between the scab Cairo run and Cairo build? Do they do the same thing? Yeah. So now this is the difference. What's the difference between scab Cairo run and scab build? Oh, let me explain this. Let me first run it and then to show it in detail right here. So when I run scab build right here, this is what it does. Scab build. So scab build generates like bundles. Yeah. So let me first run it and then I show it. I explain it. I explain it in. Meanwhile, guys, if at all you have any questions, maybe if at all there is something you need me to throw more light in, please don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, so it has finished. Now this I've run the build command, and that's what the build command does. So we can say that it has finished running. Yeah. Now let me open for us to show us what has happened. So what scar build does is that scar build generates for us a target folder. Now what this target folder holds is that it helps to compile our code. Yeah. What building means that you are having a project and you have to compile it to ensure that everything is right. Yeah. Maybe you've installed some things you want to compile, and then also it generates for us a log file. Yeah. So that's what building does. Yeah. It's maybe you have been working on a project and want to compile everything. So that's what building does. And then also, so that's the difference. Then scab Cairo run helps to, maybe if, like for this case, we want to have a result. That's what happens. Yeah. So we want to have a result. We want to generate a result. We want to print something to terminal. So that's what build does. So let me just, so in the PowerShell, you see this is what scab Cairo run does. It helps to generate the results which is expected. If at all we have an error, scab build doesn't return anything in the command line. Yeah, it doesn't return anything on the command line because it just builds the project. It just bundles the code. But the scab Cairo run, what it helps to generate a result. So hopefully, any questions still at that bit of it, guys? In case you have any question, you can just raise it. So those are data types, and then we have numerical operations, guys. Maybe to we are following the Cairo programming language book. So guys, in case you want to do numerical operations, you have to do numerical operations on variables of the same data type. Yeah. For example, I cannot have a string and subtract it from an unsigned integer. They won't match properly. It has to be the same data type. That's what they're trying to let us know here. And then we have the Boolean type. Let me just the Boolean type in practice. Yeah, so let me do something here. So how to create a new variable? All you need to do is to use the let keyword, and then let me just create a Boolean and maybe say present. So something can be present or something can be absent. Yeah. So I can say let present, and then because it's a boolean, how we express the boolean type, we use the bool. The data type is called bool, and you said true. Yeah, that means that's how I express the boolean data type. Boolean, we use it in cases. Maybe if at all you want to, maybe if at all you're writing a program and maybe you want to determine if someone is present or absent, that's when maybe when you use a false, where you need a false case or a negative case, that's why you use the Boolean data type. And then we have the strings. So let me also show us something about the strings right here. So then it can also have a string like let name equals to Bosa. Yeah, that's a name. Yeah, yeah, but my compiler is complaining. My compiler is complaining there is not something I'm not doing right. Yeah. So if you are to follow your book, after every Simon, you want to say something? I see you're raising. So there are two types of strings. If at all I intend to only store one character, for example, this, yeah, that's a short string, yeah. But if at all I need to store something, a string which is more than one character, yeah, that's a long string, and we express it with a byte array data type. For example, a name can be long. So let me just call this my variable long name, yeah. So we have to specify the data type, and the data type is called byte array. If you follow your Cairo programming language book, it's right there. And then here maybe I can say bossa. So that means that's a long string, and you can see the difference. Yeah, that for a short string I only put the string in single quotes, but for a long string, like a very long name, I have to store it in a byte array in double quotes. So then we have other data types. Yeah, we have other data types. So let's look at something. The what is called tuples. So that is called a tuple. That's called a tuple. And tuples are used to store data. Yeah, let me go back to our documentation so that we can follow properly. So tuples. So we create a tuple by writing comma separated list of values inside parentheses. Yeah, and each position in the tuple has a type, and the types of the different values in the type don't have to be the same. Yeah, so we are going to see something that the types. For example, let me give us a practical thing about tuples. So a tuple, guys, let's get used to writing comments. So tuples can have variables or elements, yeah, of different data types. Yeah. So for example, I can have a tuple, maybe members. Maybe let me just call it data. Yeah. And this data, yeah, maybe let me declare the data type here. Yeah, maybe the first element is age and it's an unsigned integer, and maybe the second element is also maybe a long name. So then I can say byte array. Yeah, and then maybe the third one is unsigned integer u16, and then I have to add it here. Maybe the first one is age, and remember I said it's an 8-bit integer. Maybe let me say age, and let me say it's 20, and then the name here I say a very long name, and then after that I add here, and then maybe I also add a number, maybe 200. This doesn't have to be in quotes. Yeah, so that's my tuple. So that's how a tuple is. That's how I can construct a tuple. Yeah, so I have assigned positional arguments, and then I've assigned data types. Yeah, I've said the first one is an unsigned integer with 8 bits. Then the other one I've said it's a byte array. Maybe it's a long name. Then the other one I've said is an unsigned integer with 16 bits. Yeah, so that's how I've constructed my tuple. If I come and say, guys, I want us to see something interesting right here. So if I come and say that, if I come and say this, let me say y, z, f equals to data. Yeah, so what this is doing is that it's declaring data. It's declaring this because data, yeah, is this here. These are the values of data. Yeah, so when I come and say that let y zf equals to this, practically I'm saying that y is equal to this. Then the other bit I'm saying that z is equal to this one here, and then when I say here f is equal to this here. Yeah, so now let me come and we see what I'm meaning. So print ln. I want us to print y, I want us to print z, I want us to print f. So let me come here and say y, yeah, z, and then f right here. Then I come and say y, z, f. Yeah. So let me comment out this. I didn't want to delete it. Let me just comment it out. So let me run my code and see the results I'm getting. So to run my code, I will just come and say this. So it's compiling. Yeah, so those are just warnings. It's not errors. They're not errors. It's just a warning. The VM is compiling. So I have to await. Yeah, so guys, you can see this properly. Yeah, that my first one is y, which is 20, z is this, and then f is 200. So that's why I'm returning. It runs successfully. Let me go back to my code and show us that we have run it properly. So you can see that my y was 20, z was 200, yeah, and then z was the string, this long string, and then f was 200. So any questions at this point? In case you have questions, try to raise them, guys. Any questions? Any question, guys? Hope we are at par. You can give me a thumbs up. So we are going to go to another. Yeah, so we've seen the tuples, then we've seen the unit type. So the unit type, I just want us to understand the unit type is a type which has only one value. It's represented by a tuple with no elements. So every time I'm having a tuple with no elements, that means it's a unit type. Then the fixed size array, another way to have a collection of elements, you can have, it's called a fixed size array. So in a fixed size array, you have to declare the data type and you have to declare how many elements are to be in that array. So for example here, maybe I write my comment array of 3 elements. So I'll just come here and give my array a name. Let me say array 1. Yeah, and then I have to declare the data type. Maybe they are going to be unsigned integers, unsigned 8-bit integers, and they are going to be 3. So after doing that, then I just come and say 20, 40, 50. Yeah. So by doing that, I've declared an array. So let me print out this. I want to print out my array. Guys, and then in an array, the elements have to be of the same data type. Yeah? It has to be the same data type. Yeah? So you cannot have strings just like in tuples. In tuples, we had here unsigned 8-bit integers, we had byte arrays, then we had unsigned 16-bit integers. But in arrays, you have to have the same data type. Yeah? So let me print my array here. My array is right here. Array 1. Okay, you cannot just, here we need to, okay, I want to print out one element in an array, and how we do that is, okay, let me show it to us here. So if at all I have my array, if I want to print out element by element, So I want us to understand that every element in an array, it has a positional index. Just imagine you are seated in a class and you are seated on benches of five. So if at all you recall your number line, how we trace the location of any element is by first getting the x, the starting with, for example, if at all I have a number line, I have to write it to get, I have to start with x y coordinate. So even arrays are like that. Yeah, every element in an array must have a positional argument. Yeah, so for example, in this array, this element here 20 has, we start from 0 going to positive. Yeah, so this one has an index. Index is like a position, like a location. If at all you recall our number lines, yeah, you could first start with the x coordinate and then the y coordinate. So this is the same kind of analogy you have to implement here. So the first element in an array takes a positional index of 0. For example, if I want to get the element at 0, I have to have, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. That's the position element. So if I want to get an element there, I will just say, let me add here, first element is, then I'll come here. I'm going to explain this in details. Then I'll add the index. Yeah. So my terminal is complaining or something I'm not doing well. Something I'm not doing well right here. Okay. So every time you are having an error, you just place your cursor on it. So it's saying core integer U8 could not be indexed. Inference failed with trait has no implementation. Okay. So to work with arrays, I have to, there's something here which is called traits, and I think I may not get into it right now. Let me first reserve this so that when we reach at the bit of traits, yeah. So I'm supposed to first import something, a trait here, by saying use and then importing the trait. But since we haven't yet reached there, let me first keep it at that. So what I wanted to us to know at this point here is that for an array, it must have, the elements in the array have to be of the same data type. Yeah. And if you add elements in the array which have the different data type, that means you're going to get an error. Yeah. For example, here I've declared that my elements are of, they are unsigned integer, unsigned 8-bit integers. Yeah. And they're supposed to be 3 in the array. So, guys, I highly implore us to try out the quizzes. They really help us understand. So, I talked about functions. We looked at functions. I talked about parameters. Parameters are what are placed in this. These are parameters. Yeah. So, x is a parameter. I talked about that. We've looked at it. And then we can have named parameters. We saw this in practice. And then we've also looked at statements and operation and expressions by letting. Yeah. So maybe I can say something about functions with return values. Yeah. For our functions to be really important and then to be good, functions must return something. Yeah. So let me show us about functions with return values. So let me just create another function right here. Guys, when you start a function, You must close it. That's why I was getting an error. So let me start a function here. Maybe multiply, a function called multiply, and maybe it's taking in x, which is a u8, and then y, which is a u16. Yeah, and then I just want it to return x times y, just that. Or maybe I just want it to return x. Yeah, well, I'm having here expected. Okay, I think I'm having an error. Let me rectify this error. Or maybe let me just do this. I can have a function, but it's not taking in any argument. Yeah, but then it's returning a number. Yeah, yeah. So the type cannot be created from a numeric. I think I realized my error. I realized where my error is. So that's how I tell my function to return something. Yeah. So you can tell your function to return. So maybe if I tell I give it a u8, yeah. When after this is when I tell it to return a u8, yeah, it means this means that what is your function returning? Your function is returning something, but what data type is that thing your function is returning? Yeah. So in this case, it's returning a U8, an unsigned 8-bit integer. Yeah. So yeah, those are functions with return values. Any questions at this point, guys? So we talked about comments, that in case you want to comment something, all programmers strive to make their code easy to understand, but sometimes explanation is warranted. In this case, if programmers leave comments in their source code that the compiler will ignore, but people reading the source code may find useful. So that's how you write comments, forward slashes. Yeah, and I guess we are going to stop here for today. We've covered some important things, and I guess if at all you have a question, you can just raise it, or maybe in case you haven't you missed out on the previous session, you can always go back to the central code. You can search for us on YouTube. Of course, that's our YouTube channel. It's called the central code, so you can just press in your YouTube channel the central code and check it out. And then in case maybe you need an assistance, you can always raise it in the Telegram group. I'd like to Emma to share the link to our Telegram group and be part of the community. And then also as developers, networking is key. Maybe there are some people, and yeah, networking as developers is key. And we are in this internet era where we can network virtually. So, guys, that's it for our session today. In case you have any questions and you want me to throw more light on something that you haven't grasped properly, you can reach out to me. And thank you so much. Silas says, I appreciate. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on this call. Guys, we are not having a session on Tuesday. Our next session is going to be on Friday, because on Tuesday we are in the Christmas period. So we shall not have a session on Tuesday, but we shall have another session on Friday, same time, 8 p.m. East Africa time. Thank you so much. So next week we shall only have one session. Thank you so much, and have a blessed Christmas season. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.